Hello, little friendly warning here. There are concepts inside this video that will be a little confusing until either they're not confusing and you understand them, or you just accept them and you still will get the same results. Hello, everybody. This is Nick the Tarot, Professor of Information Technologies and Computer Science, Lakeland Community College. Let's talk about Python indices. Indices is a plural of index, which is actually finding a location of something. Before we get started with that, let me tell you a quick story. When my grandfather was alive, if you asked him how old he was born in 1895. But if you asked him how old he would often say the year he was plus 1 year. And if you talk to a lot of the old Europeans in that day, you ask them, they would often tell the year a little bit plus one. And actually, that makes a lot of sense. So here we would say the baby is 9 months old. In Europe, they say the baby's one because the moment that baby is born, they are in their first year, but it would be year zero. Again, this is where stuff gets confusing. United States, baby's not one until their first birthday, but the old Europeans, they on their what we would call their first birthday, they would be at age 2. It would just be confusing, a little funny family anecdotes and things like that. But we use that concept in computer science. Actually, that concept was used historically for many, many years. Actually, it would cause confusion. For example, there is no year zero. There is BCE, before Common Era, and there is CE, Common Era. There is no 0 year there. The Roman, in their Roman numerals, did not have a zero, and that would often cause problems. So in computer science, we start counting at 0. So 0 is the first position. Let's go to my screen and let's take a look at a little spreadsheet I created. And what I have here is I have a string, and I broke up that string. Each character is in its own unit, but the units are referenced by the indices. So the first character, n, lowercase n, is at indice 0. Here's where life gets confusing. The first character, it has indice 0. And we always count based upon the indices. So in Python, we can do what is called slicing, where we can chop out components or pieces, parts to a string or even to a list, which are discussed in other videos. But let's take a look at it as string. So let's go up to my Python interpreter. And here's my little black screen. I'm cheating here. And I am going to do a quick copy and paste from one screen to another so you don't have to see me type. I have a string called full name. And if I now, and I assign it the value of Nicholas A. DeTiro, all lowercase. I put spaces in there for a reason. There are things I can do with a string, which are in other videos, but I want to deal with the indices, right? And what I can say is, show me the first character. And I can slice out the first character. If I say full name, square bracket, 0, indices start at 0, it should return the character n. And if I go to, here's where it gets confusing. If another point of confusion, if I say full name 1, it will show me the I. All right. So you have to get used to that. You have to get used to, we start counting at 0. I'm going to add another level, a little bit level of confusion. We can find out the length of a string. All right. The length of the string could be very important to us. We also use it in iterations. We could iterate through a string, different videos. And all I have to do is say len, and it returns 21. That's interesting. Let's go back to my Excel spreadsheet here. The indices start at 0, and yes, I do have a space there. I intentionally put a space there. The last indice is at 20, but it says my length is 21, because in this case, it's not, the length is not returning the indice. The length is just returning the measured value of how many characters in there. And again, here is a common mistake that is often used by people. The common mistake would be, oh, I want the last character. And I'll say, and I'll give it a length. Boom. It's broken. No, there is no indice 21. The indice is at 20. And yeah, if I was to say, let me clear my screen, make it a little bit prettier. If I was to say full name 20, it returned that space. Now we can begin to start slicing this character. We can start slicing this string. You'll notice again from previous videos, strings are enumerable, meaning you cannot change them unless you reassign them the value. I've been doing a couple things here. Let's say, for example, I want to slice out the first name here. Well, there's a couple ways I can do it. One would be a brute force approach. I would basically count. I'll go back to my screen here and I'll say, okay, I want all the way up to indice 7. So from 0 to 7. And I can slice it out by doing a full name, square bracket, 0 through 7. Oh, did I miss something? Notice the mistake. So let's go back here. Oh, it's going up to 7, but not including 7. So we have to go back. 0 through 8. And there it is. It will drive you crazy. I guarantee you this stuff will drive you crazy. It's just one of the things is you kind of have to get over it. You kind of have to do it. This is kind of clunky. I would have to sit there and count out the strings and minus. Well, one of the features that we can use in slicing is we can find locations to things. So for example, I want to find the location of the very first, space. So in this regard, I would say full name and give it a function of so let's break this down. Full name, find me the first place of a space. I hit enter, and you see it returned a numeric value. It actually returned an integer value. Remember from other videos or other discussions, integers, we count things. So in this particular case, it said, go out and find me the indice of that first character or first space. And if I go back to my string here, yep, it returned that. Now, a little Python shorthand is I can go back and do this. We've seen this before. All right. And it'll return it. I can also use a little bit of Python shorthand by saying not giving it the 0. This is going to assume you're starting at the beginning. Returns the same value, but there's even more that we can do. Some more Python shorthand. Let me clear my screen. Type things correctly. And if I say full name, and I say starting from the beginning, starting from the beginning, and I'm going to cheat here a little bit. Right? I want that value of 8, but what I can do Now let's break this down a little bit. It's all part of slicing because again, strings are important, texts are important. We may not know where specific things are located, but Python will give us tools to find certain things. It says we're going to slice, that's what the square bracket is telling us. We're going to slice full name, we're going to pull something out of there, and we're going to start from the very beginning, but we could have put an 8 there. You saw me put an 8 there, but I'm going to say, find me that first space. And here's the find. Let's see what it does. You see how it broke it down, and you will often see this in Python where they stretch out these lines of code because they make things a little bit more efficient. Could I have broken this down into 3 or 4 steps? Absolutely, but I just created a step. There's another Python, or there's actually a lot of Python shortcuts. What if I want a string or a slice all the way to the end of a file or an end of a string? Well, let's go back to full name. I already see that. Gonna cheat here because basically, what do you call it? There's a lot of spaces in there and we'd want to clean up this data. But let's say I want to get everything from my last name. So basically this space from indices 11 all the way to the end. You can see if, we can run through this. If I say 11 and 19, let's see what happens. That's interesting. It started at that indice 11. It started exactly where I told it. It put that space there, but it also stopped at 19. You saw that a couple minutes ago. So again, here's where things you just have to kind of work through this, either begin to understand it or accept it, how the function or method works. So here I would tweak it a little bit. I can say full name. Whoops. And I will say 12. And instead of saying 19 or 20 or whatever, I'm going to just leave that blank. So semicolon, blank, put the square bracket, and you see it brought to the end. Now notice something here, very subtle. I was kind of sneaky. I left a blank character in there. So for other reasons, I left a blank character in there. And sure enough, it brought up this blank character. What if I don't want that blank character? Well, I can strip it out. I can say another little Python shortcut. This time I'm going to say R strip. Basically, strip any blank characters to the right. And you notice that there is R strip, which strips out blank characters on our right-hand side. There's L strip, which strips out characters on the left-hand side. And there's even strip, which will take out blank characters on both sides. But this is a little bit beginning of slicing and what I call slicing and dicing in indices. Let's go up to let's wrap things up here a little bit. Okay, there is a lot you can do with this. I can create hours of videos associated with just this premise of slicing and dicing, or what I call slicing and dicing. But there's a couple key elements to this that you need to take away. One is the indices, all right? I guarantee you it's going to be confusing until it's no longer confusing, you understand it, or it's going to be confusing until you just accept it. The most challenging part of indices for most people is it starts at 0, right? And oftentimes we will use length, but the length is not truly a correspondence of the indice. The length is just a measurement of how many indices are different. We use indices in list and we get to the same thing. The very first element in a list is 0. The length of a list is how many items are in that list, different subject, different time. We slice and dice, or we pull stuff out of strings and lists using this particular method. There are shortcuts we can follow, and there's a lot of things we can explore. Like I said, I could create a whole video series, hours of doing this type of demonstration. So I just kind of want to just introduce this. What I recommend to students when they first early on working with this is do exactly what I did here. Open up your interpreter, put a couple strings in there and start manipulating the stuff. Start working with the indices and slicing and pulling that particular information out. So hope you enjoyed the video. Again, 2 paths you're going to take. Both will work. I'll be brutally honest about that. Both will work. One is you begin to understand it. It works out well. And if you're going down the path of computer science, that's probably the direction you're going to go. If you're going down of just, working with code, doing something with code, accept it. Remember it, accept it, and also remember at some point you're going to make a mistake. As you saw me kind of assuming things, I knew what was happening, but you're going to make a mistake. It's not a big deal. You adjust and you go on. With that being said, let's go and learn something.